Hey guys, it's Ken. What's happening? We are here at the New England Motorcycle Museum with the Journal Inquirer reporter.
How you doing?
What's happening, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
He came in the first floor where the construction's still going on, got a little bit lost, but he got a quick 10-cent tour of the place. So, in any event, we're about to do an interview for the local newspaper, so I thought I'd record this. So we have it on record. Where do we start?
All right. Well, your full official name, is it Kenneth or just Kenneth?
It's Kenneth Allen Kaplan.
One L or two L's in Allen?
Two L's.
E-N?
Yes.
E-L-A-N. And Connecticut native?
Actually, I was born in New Jersey, in Clifton, New Jersey, and I've been here since fourth grade.
Okay.
So my mom was a nurse in Rockville, so at Dr. Koplin's office. So this has been my hometown since I was in fourth grade.
What was the doctor's name?
Koplin, K-O-P-L-A-N. Dr. Brooks, Dr. Comer, they had an office up here in one of the old mansions.
And and how long ago was it when you moved to Connecticut then?
1974.
1974. And it was here to Vernon then? You've been in Vernon?
Actually, we lived in Coventry, and when we had our 35th high school reunion, they asked who lives less than a mile away from where they lived in high school, and
Right.
two people got up, me and one other person. The rest of the group spread out all over the country, but
Right.
I live literally a mile. I used to live in Twin Hills. Now I live on Grant Hill Road in Tallinn. I've been there since 2003. I have a 52-acre farm that we built a motocross track and a swimming pond, and
How many acres again?
52.
52.
We
Okay.
have a really nice playground up there that I built for the kids
Nice.
and for the big kids too.
So, what caused the move from New Jersey to Connecticut?
Well, my dad had a job with Lozier Store Fixtures. He was a territory manager up here, so he was a relocation.
And
He wanted
what was the company again?
Lozier, L-O-Z-I-E-R.
Okay.
He wanted to get out of the city with us. We were in Clifton, New Jersey, and he wanted to give us more of an urban upbringing. So we ended up here.
What did you do when you moved here?
What did he do?
Yeah.
He was a salesman for Lozier.
Oh, so
Fixtures.
you stayed with the same company and just relocated.
Yeah, he relocated up here with Lozier.
So when what was that like for you? I mean, in fourth grade, you would have been about 9 or 10.
Well, for me, it was awesome because we moved to a house that had 2 acres of land, and it was backed up by a huge, like 15-acre plateau that a local guy had purchased and landscaped, and he had bulldozers, and he mowed in between the trees, and he used to let us ride there, and it was right on the banks of the Skunkamug River. So in 1971, my dad bought a Yamaha GT80. So this was 74, and by then we were really proficient at riding it. So I got the 80, and my brother got a 125 Rickman, and we used to basically ride all day long, every day, all summer long. That's pretty much all we did, ride bicycles and ride dirt bikes, because we were, living out in the sticks here in Coventry, so surrounded by, and there was a river. So the guy who owned the property actually dug a swimming hole down by the river with his bulldozer, and it was paradise growing up. We had a really, really good time. Played constantly and really had it pretty good, I guess. That's all we wanted to do anyways, dirt bikes and, be outside.
Well, at some point, you said over the phone the other day that at some point you started to, say, for lack of a better word, get a little lazy with your schooling.
Yeah, we I always did good in school all the way up through to high school when I got my license and I got a job. So I was making decent money. I actually washed dishes for 6 months to save up $300 to buy my first car, a 1970 Chevy Monte Carlo. Then I got a job at the gas station, and I was buying and selling motorcycles, flipping motorcycles, and making a little bit extra money. And most of my friends were my brother's age, 2 years older. They were all out of school, and I hung out with an older crowd. So I started getting really crappy grades in 11th grade, and didn't actually finish out the school year. Just didn't show up, and my mom, being the smart woman, knew that I was on the fast track to Nowheresville if I kept on, if I didn't graduate high school. So she bribed me. She said, "I'll buy you a 19." I mean, it's a strong word, but she dangled the carrot. She offered to buy me a brand new 1983 Suzuki RM 250 if I went back to school and got on the honor roll, which I think was probably a long shot because I had flunked every class except for band. I got an A+ in band the previous year, but I really wanted that Suzuki RM 250, so I went back to school and got on the honor roll and played basketball. My final 2 years in high school, was a starter on the varsity basketball team. So between sports and the thought of having a new dirt bike, I was pretty highly motivated. And I liked band too. Band was one of my favorite subjects. I played trumpet and had a really good relationship with Mr. Salino, my band teacher. So we
Mr.
Salina,
Salina, Salina.
Yeah, Salina. He was awesome. So he passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. But between band and Mr. Bad Student, our basketball coach, I had a pretty good reason to go there besides just the dirt bike. So, but I did get that bike, and I started racing motocross again. I raced NESC motocross. In '86, I won like 9 out of 11 races and almost won a championship. So, getting the dirt bike got me back to school, got me to graduate high school, and then I went to TCI for electronics in 1986. That's how I ended up eventually starting the computer company. So
Okay.
I went to school for electronics in '86, and when I graduated there, I got a job working at New England Electronics Company.
When did you graduate from TCI?
I graduated TCI in '86. I graduated high school in '84. But if I didn't graduate high school, I wouldn't have gone to TCI, and I wouldn't have ended up in the computer industry, and I wouldn't have been successful by most people's standards, probably.
Right.
So,
but you still loved racing and riding bikes, and
I raced motorcycles all the way up to this year. We're still doing it. So, but for many years, I rode AMA, NESC, Expert, and Pro motocross.
NASC.
AMA is American Motorcycle Association,
right.
and NESC is the New England Sports Committee. That's the sanctioning body in New England. That's AMA authorized or supported. We also raced with the New England Motocross Association and also NESX, which was an indoor motocross track they had for several years up here in Windsor, which collapsed unfortunately. But so I raced for years. I won 16 championships as an expert or a vet rider. They're all the number one plaques are hanging in the showroom there. And I did try to qualify for AMA Nationals, which is the highest level of racing. And I'm a little bit on the large side for motocross. At the time, I was well over 200 pounds. I'm like 220 right now. So, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, so I didn't have like factory race bikes. A lot of the families that race and do really well are wealthy. You got to have a built motor and suspension and a lot of disposable income to compete at that level. So the championships I won were local, New England-based championships, not AMA national championships.
Right.
That's a whole other. It's like going from racing at Stafford Speedway to racing at let's say Daytona, with NASCAR. So.
Right. And so, what led? Where did life lead you from there? So you graduated TCI. You started working with computers. What were you doing with computers at the time?
Well, I was working at the New England Electronics Corporation, specifically on the Aetna account, and then eventually on the UTC account. But I was going into corporations and fixing computers, and then I was a service manager, I was a service writer, I was a field service technician. I did pretty much everything on the service side. And then I was solicited by Computerland to go work for them as a salesperson. So I got into computer sales after being fully certified for, I think I had like 17 certifications in electronics and IBM, Apple, and Compaq, all kinds of certifications. So as a sales guy, I was very technically oriented, so I knew a lot about computers. I could fix them, and I knew everything about them. So I did quite well in sales. I was their top. They had a sales contest with 17 stores, and I won the sales contest my first year as a sales guy. I was a top sales guy in Connecticut. Then I got solicited by another company and got a job remarketing PCs for a company out of Wallingford called Telrepco. And at the time, I was 25 years old, and I was making over $100,000 a year as a computer salesman. So I was making a lot of money when I was a young kid. And my office, my accountant told me, you're making too much money. You need to have some tax deductions here. And I said, well, what should I do? He goes, well, start a business. You'll probably lose money. So I started a business called Kaplan Computers. And within 6 months, I was making more in my own company than I was my full-time job, just doing it nights and weekends. So I ended up quitting, resigning from my position there, and I was full-time with Kaplan Computers since 1991. I still own that business, but I haven't worked there since 2013. So over 20 years. So I worked my way up through the ranks and knew how to do pretty much every facet of running a computer store as a tech, a delivery guy, a bench tech, a service manager, and then a sales guy. So I knew how to do the whole thing. And I have a high level energy. I'm a really hard worker, so that's part of it too. So.
Sticking to the chair.
Yeah, it's really hot in here. Yeah.
So well, obviously you've got two loves here. You have your love for motorcycles and you have your love for computers. Was there at some point that motorcycles just kind of beat out computers, or
Absolutely.
Was there a marriage that happened between them?
It was. I think my love for electronics and computers, doing it full time for 25 from 1991 until 2013. Actually, I graduated. That's longer than that. I graduated school in '86, so I was 86, 96, 2006. That's what 26 years full time. And I think I'm not going to say I burned out, but I took 6 months off of work in 2012, not knowing exactly what I wanted to do for my future 100%. But I knew that I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. So when my son was born in 1999, 20 years ago, when he was an infant, I knew that, well, I had to set a goal, and that was that I wanted to retire from the computer industry and open a bike shop with him by the time he graduated high school. That was a written and said goal that I expressed to anybody who knew me or was willing to listen to it. So that's what we did, and that's where we are now. We have the shop here. So the reason why I knew that my future was in motorcycling and that I couldn't spend my whole life in computers is every vacation I took as an adult, I went to Laconia. I've been to Daytona. This will be my 30th year to the Daytona Speed Week International Motorcycle Show. I've raced down there. I've been a vendor down there. I've done a little bit of everything, but I'm actually going to film a movie about Daytona this year. I'm going to have some videographers come with me, and we're going to film an actual movie about the experience of Daytona. But Daytona, Laconia, Americade. I've been to Sturgis once. I've been to every off-road racetrack within 300 miles of here, and I've been to every Southwick National. My love for off-road racing is deeper than any other form of motorcycling. It's my passion, motocross, and I've been to every Southwick National since 1975 when I was 10 years old. I've never missed one.
National?
The Southwick AMA
Southwick, okay. National.
I've never missed one. In fact, Junior is 20 years old. He's been there 20 times. I took him there when he was 7 days old in a basket. So he's that's our home. It's going home, going to Southwick. So we love motorcycle racing. So that's something we've, I guess when you realize that all of your, you hear people say, motivational speakers say, don't find a job to make the most money, like let's say computers or being a doctor or whatever. Don't do that. Find out what it is you love to do and figure out how to make that your life, your vocation, your job. Because if you're doing what you love to do, you never work a day in your life.
Right.
And I realized that was, unfortunately, it's easier to make money in being a doctor or in computers than it is motorcycles. But in racing motorcycles, it's very difficult to make money on. So I knew some type of motorcycle business would be the best thing for me. And I also knew that if I was going to have a really solid relationship with my son and my unfortunately my daughters aren't involved with the business, but if my son and I wanted to have an excellent relationship, I had some mentors that were older than me. Billy Ainsworth, he just won the national support class in Southwick. I watched Bill Sr. floating down the Hockenham River, what's that river in Willimantic? I think it's Willimantic River. Tubing with his son who was 18, and they're both on the same tube, and his arm was around his kid, and they spent every weekend together. They had the best father-son relationship of anybody I knew, and you know, Billy's I think 34, he's 15 years older than Kenny, so I kind of followed in Bill Senior's steps and took Kenny to all the races and traveled with him. And my daughter Jordan also raced until she was like 7, and she decided to do other things. But in any event, I knew that that my passion was motorcycling, my future was motorcycling, and that I could do this 7 days a week, 365, and never get bored of it. I'm the guy that at Daytona, when everybody goes to sleep, I'm walking down or riding a bicycle down Main Street, looking at all the motorcycles and studying, you know, the modifications, and I'm just completely and totally obsessed with motorcycles, and I have a vast knowledge of motorcycling because I've studied it for my entire life. All types of motorcycles, from little 50cc Hondas like that to that 29 JD Harley, and the Indians and everything in between. I love all motorcycles.
Where did that come from?
My dad, probably. My grandfather did flat tracking over in England, although he wasn't really a big part of my life, but he...
Flat tracking?
Flat track racing in England.
Okay.
I don't know too much about what he did other than that he did it. He died when I was young of cancer. And my dad was in a motorcycle club when he was a kid in his 20s. And when I was born, he bought a mini bike when I was like 3. So we always had a mini bike. There was always... My childhood, my best memories were riding mini bikes with my brother and my dad, and you know, at 6 years old, getting a Yamaha GT80 as a Christmas present. That was probably the best Christmas I ever had.
Which one was it?
A 1971 Yamaha GT80. When I was 6 years old, I remember it like it was yesterday, and I tried to recreate the experience of getting a motorcycle as a kid with my kids, and I've done it many times. Many Christmases they got motorcycles because I was always chasing that feeling of that I had when I was a little kid, and this gift my mom gave me of taking me off the wrong path and getting me on the right path by dangling the carrot of something I loved more than anything, which was racing motorcycles. That made me who I am today, and I want to give that back to the next generation. I'm meeting with the superintendent on the 18th, and I'd like to give a motorcycle to the most improved student in
Right, you were
Vernon.
talking about that on the phone. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that. What is it? Is it going to be a regular scholarship or?
Well, I have to meet
what's
with the town attorney, Mike Picaro, and the superintendent and I are meeting on the 18th, and that's part of the conversation I want to have with them is would the town support us doing that? And it would basically be a contest for most improved student. Typically, what I would like to see is a kid who's failing or quit school come back and be a superstar in school, and for the reward of a new motorcycle. So to me, that'd be awesome to give that gift back and maybe mentor him or her. So give him back the gift I was given.
And you're meeting with the superintendent, you said, regarding
Yes,
this?
the
And that's
Vernon public school system.
okay.
And if Vernon doesn't want to do it, I'm sure I could put a video out on YouTube, and some school system would be progressive enough to want to take the opportunity. It doesn't have to be in my hometown. I'd like it to be, but
Yeah, I can potentially foresee a problem with adults being nervous about having teenagers on motorcycles, particularly if they have no training on it. Would that be something that would also be potentially offered?
Oh, absolutely.
Like training.
Yes,
And be
yep.
able to ride as well.
there's a motocross camp Chris Canning runs. He ran it at my farm for 2 years, and now he runs it up at Southwick. He's a local pro rider.
Chris
Canning, Canning. I would offer a sponsorship to go to his school, the motocross school, learn how to ride off-road. I don't believe people should start on a street bike. I think that's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
I think starting off-road in the dirt, where if you fall over, it's grass and dirt instead of
Right.
moving trucks and trees. You know, so,
and road burn and
yeah, the road is an unforgiving surface.
and Now, the museum, is this something that you started or something that you picked up?
You mean, what did it exist before I got
Yeah.
here? No, this is something I created from the ground up. This was this building looked like it was bombed in World War II, lit on fire, and then abandoned for 60 years, which is basically what happened. All the windows were blown out, the foundations were crumbling, the roofs were penetrated. It was not economically repairable. It was beyond not economically repairable means it costs more to fix it than it's worth. It was I was able to salvage it, but I put $7 million into this project, and I could have built a hell of a nice new building for that amount of money. But this isn't one building; it's 10 buildings on 11 acres.
10 buildings?
10 buildings, yeah.
And 11
We're
acres?
yeah, we're in building number 3 right here. We've restored building number 2, 3, and 4. Have achieved certified historic restoration by the state Historic Parks Office, the first of its kind in the history of the state to achieve that status and be used for commercial use. They're always used for apartments or housing. So,
And how many motorcycles do you have here now?
I don't know exactly. Somewhere between 250 and 300. I'd have to take an inventory. There's in the museum itself, there's a couple hundred motorcycles, and then we've got in the restoration shop, in the detail shop, in the storage areas, there's motorcycles everywhere, and they're constantly coming and going. Sometimes we'll get a shipment of 30, 40, 50 motorcycles, and we average about 40 to 50 motorcycles a month are sold out of the we're $1 million business now. By that, we sell over $1 million a year of motorcycles. So my goal is to bring it to 10 million in sales. So we're bringing on the staff and increasing our ability to handle larger volumes of motorcycles. That's what funds it keeps the staff here paid, that restores the bikes and maintains the museum and everything else.
So the business or yourself owns all 10 buildings then, and
We do.
And you're what is your goal? What are some of your objectives with the rest of the buildings?
Well, we have a long-range plan that we're working on, one building at a time. Obviously, the retail showroom and restoration shop is done. The building 2 is done, and this is building 3, which houses the sales and museum motorcycles. The first floor that you hear the sanding in the background going on, and the hammers and stuff, that's going to be the gift shop and bar, and eventually a restaurant and microbrewery. But we're starting off with the gift shop and bar. I think you might have walked through there already. If not, we can do a tour of the place.
I stuck my head in a little bit. I didn't want to get in the way of the people who were working,
I'll give you a tour,
it looks very open right now.
It is like this room. Although there are motorcycles in the way and some things hanging from the ceiling, I want to keep it all four from all 4 walls, north, south, east, west. No devising of the space. I want to keep it wide open, so you have that feeling. Primarily because when you walk in this building and look down a football field long stretch of motorcycles, the thought usually occurs to you that I've never been in a building like this, because, well, there are none left. They've all been turned into apartments and condos. There were, at least around here, there were 14 in Rockville. This is the only one of its type that was restored to its original configuration, which is wide open space. And it lends well to a museum type atmosphere for expensive vintage motorcycles, like these ones over here, these 1929 Harley and the Indians and the vintage Triumphs and BSAs and Nimbuses, and all these motorcycles are lit by natural light right now because we're surrounded by windows on all 4 walls, north, south, east, west. So it's a great space for a museum display. Very light, bright.
Now, do you have a projected opening for the first floor?
My goal is within 2 weeks to have the ceilings, walls, and floors done on the first floor. We have a meeting with the town on July 18th to get the permit for and zoning, everything is straightened out for the bar and gift shop on the first floor. So my hope is this year that'll be open, but there are always sometimes roadblocks and red tape that are unforeseen. So if everything goes smooth, this year we'll have the bar open and the gift shop.
That's an expedient timeline. That's great.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't like to give finish dates because we've gone over on most of them here. But God willing, it'll happen this year. If not this year, next year. I mean, I'm here for the long haul. This is my lifelong journey, destination, goal is to craft this into a really unique cultural center for displaying the motorcycle as art, with the restaurant, the bar, the microbrewery, a banquet hall. I'd like to put a gym in here also, and I'd like to do a motorcycle restoration school.
Okay.
With housing on site here. We have a 40,000 square foot building over here that we could easily turn into apartments for students. And there are no motorcycle restoration schools. There are motorcycle service schools, but aren't any out there that specialize in the art of vintage motorcycles. It's kind of a lost art.
That would be a very specific kind of trade school, basically.
Yeah, we'd get students from all over the world for sure. It wouldn't be just a local thing. It's a very unique, specialized art, if you will. It really is art, restoring the vintage bikes to their former and sometimes nicer than they look new.
And out of the collection, which one are you most proud of?
That's a good question. It's like asking which kid do you like the most. I love them all. I think I have a few favorites. The 77 XLCR Cafe Racer Harley Davidson is one of my favorites. There's a new bike that I'm in love with, the 2017 Harley Davidson Dyna S, which is
Dyna, D-I-N-A?
D-Y-N-A S, which is probably the highest performance Harley cruiser ever made. And we're building the engine on it right now. We're making it something real special. And that's really the spiritual successor to the 77 Cafe Racer. It's like, you know how they have the 68 Camaro and then they have the new Camaro?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that. Harley had a hot rod in 77 and they built a new one that looks like it. Matter of fact, I ordered a mural of Willie G, the original designer, on the wall downstairs on the far end of the bar, of him looking down at the 77 and then the 2017.
Okay.
So that's a vision that I have for some artwork we want to create here. There's a ridiculous amount of artwork in the building. Just on the 4th floor in storage, mm-hmm. I've got over 130. I inventoried them last night. There's over 130 pieces of artwork hanging from the walls, staged so that we can pick the right piece for. I can show you that. It's pretty cool. It's on the 4th floor. And there's probably 500 pieces of artwork in the museum right now. So it's not just the motorcycles, it's everywhere you look up in the rafters. See up in the rafters right here? Mm-hmm. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, there's 14, 15, there's 15 models within 20 feet of us, and it's a football field long room. There's literally hundreds. When we bought the collection of models in here, I timed my staff. We had 140 hours of labor just placing all of the models on the 2 football field long rooms. There's well in excess of 100 man years of labor in this building alone. We had 25 guys working on it full time for 4 years on the construction crew. The masonry work alone, mm-hmm. there's 2 masons working downstairs right now. They've been here full time all year. There's over 10 man years of labor just in masonry.
So just 10 man years of labor just to make sure that I had this right. So
on masonry.
when did this place open?
This opened in October,
okay.
But it's not fully open. Only 2 floors open. We're still working on the 1st floor now. So we got a CO for the certificate of occupancy for the 2nd and the 3rd floor. We're working on the 1st floor now.
All right. So what are your personal goals outside of the museum at this point, outside of the business? How are things going? You have a son, you have a daughter, any other kids?
I have 2 daughters, a 22 and 15, soon to be 15-year-old.
Okay.
And my son, Kenny, who's 20. So I think I'm all set for kids. I got 3.
Right.
I'm a little old anyways, but my personal goals are my professional goals. They're the same because I'm no longer working to make money. Although I'd like to make some money, that'd be great. I'd like to have the support stuff. I'm working to create something phenomenal. I want to leave a legacy that long after I'm gone, people will remember worldwide. I want to create something that is handed down to the next generation, mm-hmm. and is preserved by the generation after that. Something very unique and very specialized.
And Kenny's working for you, so that's a good sign at this point.
He's been here since he was a freshman in high school. Remember, I said the goal was mm-hmm. to work full time with him, and I retired from the computer industry when he was in 8th grade. So, and I've been here full time ever since. So I got a 5-year head start on it.
Right.
But he was riding his Honda 50 Ruckus scooter here from when he was a freshman in high school from Tolland High. He'd ride here every day, year round, even in the snow. I used to have employees call out that couldn't get here, and he'd ride his scooter here. He's totally dedicated to this. He loves what we're doing here, and I've taught him everything. He's probably he's the most knowledgeable 20-year-old of vintage motorcycles probably in the world, I would say. He's been completely immersed in this since he was a freshman in high school on basically a full-time basis, because he had us on the early release program, and
Right.
we'd stay here till 8, 9 o'clock. And just to give you a glimpse, when he was a senior in high school, we had a work party on New Year's Eve where him and a bunch of his friends that worked from the high school, we worked all night long from New Year's Eve till 4 o'clock New Year's Day. And we were back here at 10 a.m. because we had a goal. We wanted to have a record. We sold 66 motorcycles that month. That was 3 years ago. So he's been very, very committed to this. And he does all of the titles, all the paperwork, all of the money transactions, all of the handling of the clients after the sale. He does the videos. He's very, very involved with the business. So I've trained him so that if I died tomorrow, he could take this over. That would be a big loss to the business, because obviously where else are you going to find someone who's going to work 90 hours a week for free for 8 years straight, which is what I've done, and donate $1 million a year to the cause, which is another thing I've done. So $7 million over 8 years, $4 million of that in loans, and the rest of it, we had one $500,000 grant. The rest of it was my life savings, and every red cent I could make in this business, in my computer business for the last 8 years, has been invested in this project. So we're heavily committed, emotionally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. We're in it, and all of our vacations are still the same way they've been before we started this. They're going to Laconia, Daytona, Sturgis, all the major motorcycle races, Mid-Ohio, vintage stuff. And our YouTube channel is absolutely blown up right now. We were getting over 1 million views a month, and we've got worldwide recognition on what we're doing. Matter of fact, a reality show called Hangar 56 filmed a teaser reel, about a 3-minute reel of clips from videos we've produced, and is pitching it next month to a network about doing a reality show on Junior and I and the staff here restoring motorcycles in the museum, and our motorcycle anti-theft campaign that I run, which was successful in shutting down the largest motorcycle theft ring Connecticut's ever seen. So that's a whole nother story.
Now, this place, you said, the museum opened up a year in October.
It'll be a year this October.
Yeah. The
shop
clarify,
opened,
the shop has been open for longer.
2013.
Right.
We had a ribbon cutting ceremony with the mayor in 2013. So the shop's been full time with anywhere between 10 and 16 full-time staff members for 6 years now. So, and we've sold over 1,800 motorcycles in the 6 years. Our average month is probably 35, 40 motorcycles. Our biggest month ever was 66 bikes.
And that was that
was
New
that
Year's.
January, yeah, when we had the work
Right.
party. It's a success is when preparation meets opportunity. And working around the clock on New Year's Eve is not something most people do. I've spent this past New Year's Day, guess where I was?
Here.
I couldn't get Junior to show up, but I was here with one of his friends cutting pipes off the back of the building in 7-degree weather, New Year's Day. Actually, I think that was the year before. We had that cold spell, not this year, the year before. Yeah, January. I was on a ladder cutting pipes off the back of the building, and it's literally 7 degrees, so you'd get frostbite if you didn't have the right clothes on. So I'm totally obsessed with it, and I'm completely committed. When we had our last big event, Rockstock, I tracked just the hours I was here. I was here for 96 hours that week. And Doug Danger, whose jump truck is out back here, you can see Doug Danger, the world record holder, his ramps are behind the building because he did a jump here, and he's coming back to do another one. And aside from the 96 hours, he spent 3 days at our house with his wife, so I had to entertain him afterwards. So I didn't count that as work, but I mean, point is, it's been a real serious effort. And I coined this term that there's no traffic on the extra mile, and I talk about it in some of my videos. And what I mean by that is that there's not a lot of people that really go the extra mile and work and sacrifice many Memorial Day weekends when the kids are off to the races. I'd be here power washing bikes or detailing machines, whatever I had to do, working on the building. Memorial Day, Labor Day, there's been a lot of sacrifice. By most people's standards, a lot of sacrifice, but to me, I'm doing what I love to do. So.
That's what I was going to say. So it feels like it's not, as you said, it's not work for you. This is your playground.
It's a labor of love, is what I call it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can do, and you're working on what you love. Yeah, exactly.
Last week, my son turned in his time card. He had 74 hours. He had, and there's, I would say half of our staff had 34 or less. So, and I had at least 10 hours more than him. I don't punch a time card because I don't get overtime.
Right.
And so he gets paid overtime. So, in any event, I worked more hours overtime than anybody paid on the staff worked the full time, if that makes any sense. I was well over 80 hours. So, but like I said, to me, every day is Christmas to me here. And what I mean by that is when I walk downstairs and the construction's going on and I see a painter restored a window or a wall or the mason restored something, it's very gratifying to me. And I know I'm doing something. This building has been here 205 years. This is a unique post and beam and brick structure with granite foundation. Buildings like this in Europe that are 2,000 years old are in perfect shape. So I know when I'm dead and gone, this will still be here. I'm not creating a 2x4 stick built or a steel building that's going to fall apart in 50 years. This will be here for centuries. It's pretty much fireproof, and it has a $350,000 fire suppression system in it. $350,000, not including the paint job, and it's a high standard of painting has been put on this, high quality paints and gold detailing on a lot of it. So it's it's a unique thing, but every day it's very rewarding to me to be here. And then the motorcycles, I'm totally obsessed with motorcycles, right? So, and we're restoring bikes, and I got a team of 6 guys downstairs working on them. So every day I get to, it's very creative. It's a very super creative process where to me it's like artwork when you take an old bike and you have to decide what color, like that 1929 JD right there, that one's pink. So I didn't pick the color out, but the person that restored it did. That's the color that they wanted. And it's unique individual pieces of artwork, especially the resto mods. So, and like this guy right here, he's one of our masons fixing the 200-year-old building next door. How's it going?
Good.
How's the brickwork coming?
Coming along fine.
You're doing a beautiful job.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So these guys that work here, most of them, it's a labor of love for them too. They could probably find a better, higher paying job at Pratt Whitney or wherever, but it's a very artistic process and very creative. And the painters, the carpenters, everybody seems to enjoy it. And a lot of people become vested. They become like the building has like a soul. There's actually a guy who wrote a book about it that hasn't been published yet, but it's done. It's called From Loom to Vroom. His name is Rick. Loom is the loom. They made cloth out of looms, and Vroom is the motorcycle. It's a 100-year timeline from 1916 to 2016 about the history of the mill. And in the book, by the time I got to the second chapter, I realized that all the words in italics were the building speaking. The building has a soul. It has after 205 years some type of presence, if you will, and it actually, when you work on this building, if you do something wrong, I always say the building talks to you. So if you paint it a certain color and it's not right, you just know. Like, we've done a lot of things twice in here. It has to be done right, So,
Right. I'm feeling you.
and we've paid respect to like the original paint finishes on the wall. We're not completely removed. We left a lot of the original finish.